It's a little chilly out there today. But as promised, I want to venture out and introduce you to one of the herbs that I like to harvest this time of year, plantain. It is coming up now. It's actually been up for a few weeks, and it's pretty hardy here in Florida until it gets hot. So when we had the snow a few weeks ago, I noticed that the plantain was actually really vibrant green. And as soon as it starts to get hot, it'll start to kind of disappear a little bit. So it doesn't really like that really, really hot weather. But I always harvest plantain and chickweed this time of year, other herbs too, but those two in particular because I use them in my essential healing salve. And yeah, so we're just going to dive into that a little bit. And what else? There's, lots of spring tonics are starting to come up. And I should probably do a video just focused on spring tonics. That might be something y'all might like, I think. Okay, well, we're going to get out there. I'm going to show you what some plantain looks like. Yeah, it's a little windy and chilly out here today. I think it's going to drop down to about 29 or so. But you know what? Me walking around the property in the middle of a work day is, yeah, it's freedom. That's what it is. Freedom from that awful job that I had. I realized that it's taking a lot to kind of process this whole departure from that experience. And I realized that I didn't make any friends because I really started stirring things up at the end. Well, not just the end, the last couple of months, because of what I believed was unfair compensation. And I started to become very vocal about it. And I realized they didn't like it. So that's why they boxed me out. And I tried to stick it out because I was kind of hoping they would fire me and then I could collect unemployment. But in the end, my sanity was more important. So anyway, we're outside and there is a lot of plantain out here, but a lot of other stuff is coming up right now. Plantain is a hardy perennial. It grows all over North America and it's typically considered a weed by most people. It's a very useful plant. Western herbalists use it a lot. It's also considered invasive. The First Nationers referred to this plant as white man's foot because everywhere white men set foot, it arrived. It's considered a succession plant, and that means that it's usually showing up in disturbed areas first. I consider a lot of these types of plants to be healers of the land and likewise humans. It's pretty easy to identify, although there are a few lookalikes, but once you know it, you can't forget it. So it basically grows in a basal form, and there are a lot of different varieties, but there's two that are the most common varieties, and that's the broadleaf plantain and lanceleaf plantain. So what we're looking at here is a broadleaf. A lanceleaf has a real thin leaf. So the property that I'm on right now, it's near the bay, and we have a lot of grass and trees, and I have found that the broadleaf grows all over the place. But when I was closer to the beach, I would notice that the lance leaf grew, like it would pop up in the sidewalks and grew close to the beach. And I think that's because the lance leaf, it seemed like it was much drier, and I think because it was just exposed to unrelenting sun and salt air, that was instrumental in the plant growing into long, thin leaves to help it conserve its moisture, where this broadleaf plantain is a much more fleshy plant. You can use them interchangeably, though. Another identifying feature is that the veins or the ribs of the leaf all come terminate at the tip of the leaf. And if you pull the leaf off, you can see strings at the end of the stem. This plant looks similar to broadleaf plantain, but it's actually broadleaf cudweed. Every time it rains, I like to check these ditches for turtles. I have a few regular turtles that come through here. One time I saw about 6 or 7 of them hanging out. It's too cold for them right now, but they'll start moving real soon. Maybe another month or so. We get a good rainstorm and they will come out. And you can hear them in this little thicket back here and start moving. Back to our plantain. This herb is a very cool and astringent herb. It also has the dual actions of being a demulcent, so it's astringent and demulcent. It's considered a vulnerary or a wound healer, and it also has a drawing quality, so to draw out like splinters. So draw out poison, draw out splinters. So this is why I use this in my essential healing salve. In traditional Chinese medicine, they use a variety. It's called Plantago Asiatica. It's in the drain dampness category. So these plants can be used interchangeably. And so they're not only good for your skin, they're good internally. For anything that's affecting the mouth all the way down to the anus. Oop, I just said anus. This plant can be used as a diuretic to resolve hot, damp infections in the lower jiao. In the lower jiao, you can think about the liver and kidney organ systems, which also includes the reproductive organs. You can use these plants in a lot of different ways. You can dry them, you can use them fresh, you can make tinctures, salves, you can make a gargle with it, and water infusion. So I like to use them fresh, and I make a simple, you can make a simple infusion with hot water. When I make my salve, I also like to use fresh leaves, but I let it wilt for 24 to 48 hours, and then I infuse them in olive oil. And when you do that with fresh plant material, if you're infusing olive oil with fresh plant material, that's usually something you want to use externally, not internally. You could also make a fresh tincture with the fresh or dried leaves. If you're using fresh, I would wilt them for a day and use an alcohol that is at least 150 proof. Another way to use this herb as a barefoot herbalist is to simply just chew it and put it right on your skin. If you have like a splinter or a dry, itchy rash, little spider bite, something like that, yeah, you can just chew it up, masticate it, and put it right on there, and it'll draw out the poison or the splinter and act as a wound healer. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to bringing you some more information about new herbs. Bye now.